Hi, hello, Alfie. Thank you for joining me here to talk about the game that you're working on, Outclaw. And so, if you could tell us a bit about the game and what you do on the game.
Okay, so Outclaw is a minion managing action adventure about herding cats through the stars. It's a sort of action adventure in the vein of Pikmin and Overlord, Tinykins, another inspiration. Essentially, think of any game where you have one character that you're controlling, who can in turn control a little horde of minions that go and do your bidding, whatever that may be. We've been working on it for about 2 years now. It initially started as a university project, and then we realized we really enjoyed working together. We really enjoyed living in the city that we studied in, and we really enjoyed working on the project. So we figured we'd see how far it'd take us. About 2 years later now, we have raised about £300,000 in funding for the game, and we have fully funded our development. It should be coming out fairly soon, hopefully. I am the producer for the team. Producer's the best word for it, but it's sort of basically I make sure things hold together. I do a lot of business stuff. I do a lot of design stuff. I'm the one who takes all the scattered bits of like hyper competent, incredible work that the rest of the team makes and fits them together into a larger whole, be it literally in terms of the game or like commercially or on the corporate side in terms of the company and making sure we have money to pay rent and that we don't do tax fraud and that we don't get sued and da 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 da.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you mentioned you're working with a team. How big's the team that you're working with?
So there are 9 of us total working on the project. It started as I suppose technically it started with 3 of us at uni. We'd worked on a game jam together and then decided we wanted to do something together again for our final project. But before we even started that final project, it very quickly grew because it was us and another team that were also wanting to do a similar sort of thing. Um, Essentially, what happened is the two teams got so into a sort of friendly competition, oh, we're gonna outdo you, da 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 da, that just before Christmas, and so before our second term of the final year started, the two of us kind of sat down in no man's land and went, you know what would be even better? If all of us worked together and we
Mhm.
made one cohesive thing. So it was 3 of us, and then that was me, is Zach, and then Sam and Louis were working together and had gotten Ryder and Beth on their side. We joined forces, and then a couple months after that, Jake came in as well. About a year after that, so after uni, while we were on the transfuser program, which is a sort of business startup accelerator offered by the government, we picked up Matt, who is our sound guy. So there's a wide variety of roles spread throughout the team, which I'm more than happy to talk for days about. But that is the long and short of how the team actually came together in the first place.
Which university was it, if you don't mind me asking?
So that was Norwich University of the Arts. It's a little city up in the northeast in Norfolk with a surprisingly sort of active and exciting game scene. It's not really known for it, but especially in recent years, there's been quite a few very, very promising projects coming up and releasing and sort of making a name for themselves around, be it through the uni or through people who just lived here anyway. So yeah, we figured we'd see if we could jump on the wave and see how far it'd take us, and here we are.
So there's a demo of the game up
Mm.
on Steam now.
Yes.
I have played through some of the demo there,
Mhm.
and I found the vibe of the game to be quite quite relaxing and
Mhm.
quite um not it wasn't pressurizing in
Mhm.
any sort of way. So how did you land on sort of more relaxed tone for the game?
So there's a number of different things that feed into it. I suppose sort of primarily it's that cats and crystals and stars and all the aesthetics that we're going for lend themselves quite well to the so it's an overdone trope of a name, but the cozy games kind
Mhm.
of crowd, the sort of the type of person who would grab a little mug or something nice and warm and sit down in front of a PC with some fairy lights in the background and get lost in a world that's not this one for a few hours in an evening. Um, and to fit with the whole cozy game space, it's a space that values atmosphere and story and a rewarding experience over a challenging form of gameplay, I suppose.
Yeah.
Beyond that, though, the game is about collecting and managing shades, which are your little minions. They're the
Mhm.
Pikmin or the Tinykin or the I think in Overlord they're just called goblins or something, but they're your little guys that you're running around with.
Mhm.
Um, and minion management games in these veins fit themselves quite well into the sort of strategy niche. Sort of action adventures are very traditionally not overly intense. You know, Mario is traditionally a game for kids, and same
Yeah.
with Spyro, but they require a bit of like active engagement and sort of maneuvering and a challenge of skill. But there's only sort of so much you can do as far as challenges when you are managing a group of dispersed AI controlled characters that are separate from yourself. And sort of if you push it too far, you end up with StarCraft, basically,
Yeah.
which is not the kind of thing that we want, and it's not the story that we want to tell.
Yeah.
So instead of challenging the player with, I suppose, pressurized tests of skill, we challenge the player more with the thinking through a situation and making sure you're utilizing your minions in the right way and putting them in the correct places and as the game goes on, using their ability to shapeshift to tackle various open-ended problems in whichever way you see fit.
Yeah. And so, can you tell us a bit more about the protagonist of the game, Giblet? I believe he's
Yes.
called, a cat with five eyes.
hmm
Um, and also he's marked as a villain.
Mm.
So what did Giblet do to earn that villain status?
So the short answer is push a vase off a table. The long answer is that Giblet is a five-eyed magic cat that fell down from the stars, and that's about all you know when you go into the game. You
Mhm.
land in this lovely, pristine garden up in the top of a tree, and you meet a wise old owl who sits there and teaches you a little bit about the way the world works. He seems to know what you are and where you've come from, but
Mhm.
before you can even get very far. You're a cat, you see something on a table, you push it off the table, it smashes on the floor. And this seems to send the wise old owl into a blind rage, at which point he casts you off into the abyss and seeks to never make eye contact with you again. It seems that whatever this world is that you've landed in, it condemns you for being who you are. And so cast into the deepest reaches of a place called the In-Between, you've got to climb your way out and find a family for yourself, both mechanically with your shades and narratively with a cast of colorful characters you can talk to and befriend as the game goes on. Um, the long and short of it is that by the end of the game, you have thoroughly earned your villain protagonist name in regards to that owl sitting in his pristine garden at the top of his tree, which is not in as good of a state by the end of the
Mhm.
story. But we'll leave that for the full game and for
Yeah,
someone to sit down and play through.
of course.
But yes, that's the long and short of it.
And the shades, they
Hmm.
all have names. Playing
Yes.
through the demo, I
Hmm.
love these names. My personal favorite so far is the shades named Steve with
hmm
two E's. although the Great Blob is also a fantastic name. How did you land on these names? Did you sit and brainstorm, or how did they come about?
So, firstly, I absolutely adore that those are the two that you picked out because one of the most memorable moments we've had with those names within the team is at the was it Norfolk Games Festival, which is an event we go to every year. We usually get a whole bunch of kids coming by the booth and playing because it's a colorful game with, friendly animal creatures and characters, that kind of thing. But while one of them was sat down, they got a shade and it was called Steve. And every booth within a good 10-20 meters of ours heard that kid just go, Steve! And then about 5 seconds later, they got another one, which was called The Great Blob, and double the volume, double the excitement. And then that seemed to stick, and that kid was just sat there going, "The Great Blob, go!" like over and over again while they were playing the game. It was adorable.
Yeah.
But so the names are part of a wider thing that we are focusing on with the game, which is to allow the players to customize and really make their little horde of minions their own.
Mm.
In sort of Pikmin, the Pikmin are very generalized. They're specialized by their type, but you can't kind of go, this is Bingus, he is the problem child, but I love him all the same.
Yeah.
And we really want to push a bit of that. So you can give the shades hats, you can change their body types, you can give them names, etc., etc. And for the names, we essentially we go to a monthly game developer meetup up in Norwich, and we basically just put an open submission form onto the projector when it was our turn to showcase what we were doing. We explained we need names for some minions in the game. You all know what it is at this point. Here it is. Go crazy. And we let people just type up anything they could think of for about 20 minutes. And then we took those suggestions, popped them in and CSV document, I think is the Excel one.
Yeah.
Ran through it and double checked, obviously, for anything that would potentially not be received that well or is copyrighted or might land us in hot water with a certain mouse-shaped larger corporation.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was essentially just everything people submitted back then. So there's a bunch of little references to other games in that development group, to people that have helped us through the project, to in-jokes amongst the team. And I imagine there's going to be way, way more in the final game as well. We're not done with the nicknames at all. We've got a rolling list that we keep chucking things in. So yeah, expect some more fun ones.
That's good. Yeah, I love that
Mm.
one. When
Mm.
I came up, when I found it, I was like, "Oh, that's like a really nice way to sort of make it more of a cat name," because like
Mm.
Steve is like not, at least to me, it doesn't seem like a cat name, but Steve,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's much more of a fits.
yeah. One of
And
the
you,
things, oh no, sorry, go on.
no, like, sorry, you go.
One of the things we are considering right now, we're not quite sure how it would work. There's talk of maybe having a look at crowdfunding at some point with the team and seeing if people would want to get involved in the project and kind of chip in to get a part of their life in the project. If it's not that, then it would probably be a competition or a community event. But we're thinking it would be really nice to, in some way, find a way to allow fans of the game to submit names of their own cats or different things like that to be featured in the game. Because
Yeah,
we considered having an open name field that you could where you could name your minions whatever you wanted, but that's risky for many reasons that I'm sure I don't need to elaborate on too much.
yeah,
So instead, we're just going for the big list of different nicknames that you can unlock over the course of the game. And yeah, it gives us a few fun opportunities.
yeah. And
Mm,
you mentioned briefly there about the cosmetics, and that
mm,
was one of the sort of questions I had about. I could see on the Steam trailer again, it was running through the different hat options for the shades.
mm.
But where's Giblet? Does Giblet get a hat as well?
Yes, he does. It's not a feature that's in the current demo, but it is a feature that's in the game as we're working on it right now.
Yeah,
The long and short of it is yes, there are like sets of hats for the shades, and then Giblet can have one that kind of marks them as the king of whatever that group is. So the first one and the only one that's been public that we've done is last year for Christmas. We had a little Christmas demo update where you
mhm.
could give the shades little like helper elf hats or
Mhm.
reindeer antlers, and then
Yeah,
Giblet got a Santa beard and Santa hat. That's the sort of thing that we want to be going with in the future. It'll sort of be the plan, at least right now, is for it to be like a if you have a complete set of hats amongst your shades, Giblet unlocks one that he can have as well. So
yeah.
yeah.
Um, and then one system that again is in the Steam trailer is
Mm.
like upgrades that you can do. So
Mm.
for example, there's a black hole bomb, I
Hmm.
believe is one of the upgrades in the trailer.
Yes.
So I don't know if you could tell me a bit more about that feature.
So I'm very glad you've asked about that because that is a key part of one of our biggest selling points as far as the game goes. So, like I mentioned earlier, with Pikmin, your minions are differentiated by type, so they can each do different things.
Hmm.
Very similar with Overlord, very similar with Tinykin. For us, the minions are differentiated cosmetically, but broadly they can all do similar stuff. There's maybe a bit of statistical difference. You can tilt towards certain builds, but the big sort of progression thing and the big thing that you unlock over the course of the game is the ability to shapeshift your minions into various different helpful things. So the first two that you unlock, which we've publicly showcased, are ramps that allow you to climb to places you otherwise wouldn't be able to get to and bring your shades with you,
Yeah,
and bombs, which you can fling at enemies and they'll blow up, and you can bust through breakable walls and other things like that. But there's many others that we have in development. There's six that you unlock over the course of the game, and they
hmm,
include such fun things as a giant pair of arms that allows you to punch your enemies into nothing. Specifically, those arms, they shed shades off of the shoulders like bullet casings as they
yeah,
run out of durability, which is really, really fun.
yeah,
Or a big ball that you mold all your shades into and then hop inside of like a hamster ball or a Zorb, which you then pilot around. I think there's a screenshot of that on the Steam page. Um, Part of that is the ability to spec into specific builds and customize what those shapes are capable of. So,
mhm,
for example, with the bomb, like you mentioned, there's a black hole upgrade where it can gain the ability to pull in things before it explodes. There's also like a sort of fire upgrade, which will cast lingering damage over time fire all over the floor.
yeah,
There's a cluster bomb upgrade, so when the bomb explodes, it splits into three smaller ones. And it's similar with the ramp and the arms and the orb and all of the other shapes that I haven't mentioned as well.
yeah.
There's lots of fun different things to explore and spec into in the full game, and I'm very much looking forward to all the ridiculous stuff that we can't possibly predict that people do with this system.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then so recently there's been sort of a lot of cat games that have been sort of published in the last few years. For example,
Mm.
Stray,
Yep.
being quite a popular one. And there's one that is on Game Pass or was on Game Pass,
Mhm.
Little Kitty, Big City, where you
Yep.
explore a city as a kitten. So what's it like to be, developing a cat game, joining these other cool cat games, and then what is it about cats that you think attracts people to design games around them?
Well, it's as far as the actual experience of developing a cat game, it's a double-edged sword because, for one, it's a big draw because people love cats.
Mhm,
You can sort of, if you get the vibes of the game right and you make the right kind of game, cats will bring people in. It's sort of it's the whole thing of the internet is made for sharing silly videos of cats, and
mhm,
it does do that very well. Um, but then beyond that, it's sort of a matter of standing out within that crowd because people will flock to your game, but then they'll also very quickly, as we've done here, go, oh, it's like Stray, or oh, it's like Little Kitty Big City. And something that we found very difficult early on in the development process was quickly distinguishing ourselves from those games.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we've got it pretty down, the aesthetic of the game, at a glance at a
Yeah.
fraction of gameplay and seeing the minions running around will do it quite nicely. And the sort of wider world that the game fits in isn't really seen in any of those. Um, but that comparison can be very tricky to get around if you're not careful. And it can really shoot you in the foot. But it's that sort of thing is always going to be a problem with game development and media creation, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that there isn't really anything that's ever original. There's
No.
always inspirations and things that feed into whatever it may be, and that's usually what makes it good.
Mhm.
But you've just got to prove that what you've made is valuable and worth it existing standalone outside of its inspirations, and that's the trick. Um, Beyond that, though, as far as what got us to choose to make a cat game in the first place, um, the obvious answer is the team loves cats. I think there's 7 cats that I can think of off the top of my head, and probably significantly more when you include partners and family and all that kind of thing. I myself cannot wait until I live in a place that is sort of stable enough as far as I'm not moving around all the time
Mhm.
to have a cat myself. Um, the way it happened originally was when we were all at university. We knew we wanted to make a game around minions because a lot of us played Overlord as kids, and we wanted basically the sentiment was, man, Overlord was a good series. Why did no one ever carry it on? And since learned that there's loads of different things that fed into that, but we had a moment of we could do that.
Yeah.
We could make that game. And so we did, but we didn't know what it would look like. And so Zach, our character artist, ended up basically just concepting every thought that they had. There was like a robot that would pull smaller little parts of itself off and use them like Tamagotchi or smaller transformers. There was a plant creature which would grow new plants. There was an old haunted suit of armor that could reanimate objects like Beauty and the Beast style.
Mhm.
But then in the middle of all of that, there was a cute little white cat hovering in the middle of a giant cat kaiju monster that was made up of a bunch of tiny little smaller cats. And we all pointed at that one and went, that's really compelling. That's really fun. And that's sort of where the idea spun off from.
Yeah.
And combine that original concept with the whole shapes mechanic and the idea of your minions being able to shapeshift, you might see where the game is headed mechanically by the end of it. Shan't spoil anything more, but there's some fun stuff in store, I'll say that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Any plans for the game to come to other devices or just focusing on a Steam release?
So currently Steam is our primary, Epic Games as well. We're working on a Unreal Engine, so that's a fit that makes sense. Um, Beyond that, there are plans and aspirations to port to Switch 2 and then PlayStation and Xbox, depending on where we end up getting sort of a good offer and where we see the opportunity. But at the minimum, Switch for sure is very much a priority, very much on the list.
Mhm.
It's a question of funding as to whether we'll be able to release at the same time on Switch and on PC. The likelihood is that we'll do a staggered release, PC first, then Switch a little bit after that. But the game will fit very well on Switch. I mean, it's inspired by a lot of Nintendo titles in the first place. It's got a cute little mascot character, and it's very colorful. It's story based and atmospheric. The story sort of writes itself. It's very easy to look at almost any game ever and go, it'd fit well on the Switch because every game ever fits well on the Switch. But it would fit well amongst Nintendo's titles as well, which we think is an opportunity that's worth pursuing.
Yeah, sure. And
Mm.
then finally, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't at least try to get an answer to this final question. Is there a planned release window or release date?
Yes, there is.
Any hints?
Internally, yes, there is. I have a date in my head, but we haven't announced it quite just yet. Keep an eye out though, because it's not overly far off. So we'll be putting something up in the next little while. I'll be deliberately vague about it because there's some things in the works, but exciting stuff planned. I'll say that much.
It's great. I thought I'd try,
It's
see what I could
always
get.
worth a shot. Absolutely.
Um, but thank you for joining me. And it was great to talk about the game and learn a bit more about it. Um, it is you can wishlist the game on Steam now, and
hmm
there's a demo that
hmm
is sort of available to play.
hmm
So yeah,
I will say, you might want to move quickly with that one because the demo won't be up forever. It's fairly outdated compared to where the development of the game is now. So we're gonna be taking it down for a little bit and then maybe ramping up with some updated stuff just before launch. So if you want to play it, get on it. And if you want to know when that next update comes in, make sure to chuck it on your wish list and support us in the process. So there you